Hi, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Cltv. This week's topic is going to be jury nullification, or as I prefer to call it, justification defenses.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Hi, welcome to Cltv. I'm Ken Lammers, your host, and today's topic is going to be jury nullification / justification defenses. Now, what is jury nullification? Well, first of all, let me give credit where credit's due here. What put this thought in my mind to talk about this week was Mark Bennett publishing in his blog a post from a prosecutor who argues that jury nullification is illegal. And then a few days later, or a day or so later, Mark rebuts in his blog saying that, no, jury nullification is legal, and there are some follow-up blog postings on that, but those are the two big ones. And then over at Wendy Pundit, Mark Drawn, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Mark, posts a post about how, well, there's a point where he's going to nullify if the law is unjust, the application of the law is unjust. Just a matter of where that point is. Now, I'm not going to address any of these blog postings directly. What I'm going to do is pontificate on my own about my thoughts on jury nullification is, or are. So, what exactly is jury nullification? Well, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, and you kind of not have to be following the legal blogs because it seems to come around every 3 to 6 months. What it is when a jury decides not to convict someone despite the fact that he's clearly guilty. If there are 3 elements to snipe hunting, you have a rifle, you're walking around a tree and you're shouting, here snipe, here snipe, here snipe. Prosecution proves that, and the jury decides not to convict a guy of snipe hunting anyway because, they like the defendant, they don't like the officer, they think the law is bad, they think the application of the law is improper in this case, or, 8 of them got the flu and want to go home. All those can be reasons that a jury can nullify, and there's nothing that can be done about it. Now, there's arguments over whether or not it's legal or not legal for a jury to nullify. It's really kind of irrelevant, because once a jury does it, the case is over. So, a jury can, whether you call it a right or an ability, I would say it's more of an ability than a right. I think they are acting contrary to the law when they nullify. But the jury can nullify in any case, anytime they want to. So, the real argument is whether or not defense attorneys should be able to argue for nullification, or justification is what it truly comes down to. We already have some justification that's allowed. Generally, they're not allowed to argue for justification unless it's specifically allowed by statute or case law. And certain things that come up that are clearly justification are things like involuntary intoxication. A doctor gives you bad drugs, you go nuts and you attack 6 police officers because you're out of your mind on the drugs the doctor prescribed for you. Well, that's an affirmative defense, and justifications are an affirmative defense. And for those of you who aren't all intertwined in this stuff, the affirmative defenses are yeah, but defenses. Yeah, I did it, but I shouldn't be punished because of this. Yeah, I attacked 6 police officers, but I shouldn't be convicted of assault and battery of police officers because the doctor gave me this drug and I went nuts because I was on this drug. It's an involuntary intoxication. Another one that we see probably more often than that is self-defense. A guy uses a chainsaw to break in your front door, and while he's doing that, you walk in your bedroom and you take the shotgun down off the wall and load it, and the guy's broken in your front door and he's charging down the hall. screaming something about he's going to kill you because God told him to, and you put two rounds right in his chest and kill him, that's justified. Yeah, I killed him, but he was going to kill me if I didn't. Justified self-defense, justified homicide. So there are some justifications that are allowed, but let's say it goes from here to here. Should be allowed all the time, not allowed, period. And it actually only kind of goes, about here. We don't see justification defenses allowed for certain things like the law is bad. This is just a bad law. You shouldn't convict my client because this is a bad law. This is people who are, against drug laws want to be able to argue this. They want to be able to argue that marijuana shouldn't be illegal, cocaine shouldn't be illegal, heroin shouldn't be illegal, whatever. They want to argue that the law is bad and therefore you shouldn't be able to convict somebody. And there's also somewhere down here, there's, look, yeah, Joey was selling drugs on the corner, but he lived in, the projects. There wasn't no place to work within 16 blocks, and it was a McDonald's down 16 blocks away that had 200 applications in front of Joey. So, what's he going to do? Yeah, he sold drugs on the corner. Should he be convicted for that? People want to run that defense. And then, of course, you get way on the end. You get, things that are just clearly prejudicial. Look, that man, the victim, came downtown, and he should have known better than to come into the Armenian section of town. Because if you come into the Armenian section of town and you're not Armenian, after 8 o'clock at night, everybody knows you're taking your life in your hands. And, Mr. Smith over here shot him. Yeah, he shot him. He wasn't Armenian. He was in the Armenian part of town. He shouldn't have been there. And that kind of prejudice does exist. So it would be another argument for jury nullification. The problem is, of course, that what you're really dealing with is what's sometimes called the common sense of the jurors, at other times would be called the prejudice of the jurors. Whether it's common sense or prejudice is going to depend on your point of view. And they do intermingle, but what do you do about this sort of thing? Well, it's more, I kind of agree with the way the law's handled it so far. Well, I'm of two minds. I like the whole Jacksonian democracy thing where, the jury is the final democratic test of the law and keeps the judges and the prosecutors honest by, checking them when they try to overreach, even when the law is broken, if it's an overreach. It's a nice ideal. Of course, like I said before, the problem is that the prejudices of the community come in play. And, people just seem to look at this all the time with rose-tinted glasses. They assume that nothing, that it's going to be for the good if we just allow jurors to become untethered. And I think that they're wrong there. I think that there's also a very, very probable prejudice application. That they're going to do the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. Just as well as, hopefully with the Jacksonian democracy model, they'll do the right thing for the right reasons. And it's all a matter of their prejudices. And this is not anything new. There's a reason that this has developed the way it is. We all know. Now, mind you, there's another thing I haven't really gone over here yet. There can also be nullification. It's not really justification. Nullification in favor of the prosecution. Where the prosecutor doesn't really prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt, and the jury still convicts the guy. Jurors doing the wrong thing for the wrong reason is a theme that has gone through American art and history. This is not something new. This is not something I'm creating out of whole cloth. You know, we all, every single one of us has seen To Kill a Mockingbird. You know, and hopefully some of us have actually read it too. But we've all seen it. And the prosecutor puts a black man on trial for raping a white woman, and the defense attorney just absolutely rips everybody to shreds and makes it very clear that the black man is not guilty. But the jury convicts him anyway. That's nullification, folks. That's nullification in favor of the prosecution, which is not something we think about too often. But let's flip it back. There's nullification the other direction too that's still clearly bad and prejudicial. And we don't have to look that far back. We can look back to the 60s and 70s, which I realize is 30, 40 years ago. We can look back that far, and jurors, you know, primarily in the South, but in other areas of the country too, let's not let everybody off the hook. You know, localities, local jurors would refuse to convict people, white men, for doing things, killing people, burning churches, all sorts of stuff that they did against black people, black citizens. Absolutely unjustified and immoral uses of nullification. And I've thought this through a little bit and been thinking over it for a few days. I think that if you're going to allow justification defenses, or you're going to allow justification defenses, you're going to allow, you know, arguments that the jury should acquit because of this or that reason, but defenses. It has to be something that's measured and allowed in little by little. You know, it can't be something where you just give carte blanche to defense attorneys to argue whatever prejudicial matter they want to argue to the jury, and carte blanche to the juries, to dismiss. Well, the juries already have that ability, like I said before. But you just can't give defense carte blanche to argue that. Just imagine if that ability was given. You know, all sorts of prejudicial arguments will be made. All sorts of immoral arguments can be made. And to think that it won't happen is just looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. It really is. Now, if we had true jury sentencing, we don't exactly have true jury sentencing. We have jury sentencing where the jurors are forced to sentence people to 5 years, 10 years, 40 years, whatever, you know, as a minimum, which is more than the judge would sentence them to, because the judge can suspend time. If we had true jury sentencing and allowed juries to sentence from, you know, anything that the judge would be able to sentence, you know, if the judge could suspend it all the way down to 6 months or a year, let the jury start there, 6 months or a year, and go up to, you know, 50, whatever the top of the statute is, or 10, or 5, or 40. If we allowed true jury sentencing, then it somewhat counters the lack of allowing justification. You know, if you allowed true jury sentencing, what I'm saying there is if you allowed true jury sentencing and justification arguments in the sentence, you know, at that point, you know, beyond the but affirmative defense, and then you had over here, you had a little bit further, you allowed justification arguments in sentencing, then I think you might come to a more just result. Yeah, you get the conviction, but the jury then can say, but we're not giving him any time in jail, or we're not giving him 6 months in jail. Yeah, I know he's convicted of murder. But, you know, we don't think he needs to spend more than a year in jail. You know, those sorts of things could be worked out in jury sentencing. But I do think that jury sentencing could be a solution to it. And that's my proffer. Ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to your comments, and I'll put a little bit of a post up on Crim Law so that you can comment on this. And next week, I'll come back with hopefully a brand new post. I'll talk to you then.